Hey again. Um, Two things I've got on my mind. I really want to get off my chest, so I'm just gonna get into it. So, first one I want to look at is it's a it's a it's about creating a culture and the leader creating an environment where the the group has no ego. I'm not talking about individuals because obviously that's something you have to trim away. But I'm talking about creating a culture where people are winners and they all buy into this. Everyone's traveling in the same direction. Um, I believe that I've seen groups before where you've got uh, like a leader who's very macho, very aggressive, very kind of in your face. I'm in charge, throwing everything at everyone, really angry, alpha male, whatever. Um, yeah, I've seen a lot of them. I've seen the flip side where everyone's trying to be everyone's best friend and they just come across as wet and weak. And I've seen both ways and neither of them work. So uh, I believe it's more about, from what I've seen, from a lot of different interviews I've seen and books I've read, articles I've read, it seems that a leader who can create a culture of everyone traveling in the same direction, whether that be for bad intentions, good intentions, whatever it may be, if everyone is on the same path and everyone has the same discipline, everyone is traveling in the same direction, that's how you create a team. And I believe that's what the leader is there to do, is make sure that the team can manage itself, I suppose. So you've got your kind of your lieutenants who will control the day to day, I suppose, everything that happens on a daily, the daily basis will happen through the lieutenants, but that ultimate top leader will oversee everything. And I believe that um, honesty goes a long way in that. So I think honesty is a massive thing that the top leader needs to be, but at the same time I think there is a time and a place for withholding information, but that comes through experience. But I think honesty, being honest, is a very good way of gaining people's trust, and having that trust is vital. If you lose that trust and you lie once, you get caught out once, I think it's gone. And when it's gone, you can't get it back. It's kind of like in a relationship, if someone in the relationship, my wife's watching one of those reality TV programs, and there was, I wasn't watching it, of course. I was just in the room when it happened to be on, and I can't remember, someone did something that was like a minor thing that could have been interpreted as cheating. For me, it was cheating because you've now crossed that line, and there's no way back. Every inch that person takes, you can never get it back. I don't think you ever go back to the way you were. So I think having those boundaries and letting people know of those boundaries through being honest and through letting people know that once they've crossed it, they're done. I think you don't have to rule with an aggressive iron fist, but you do need to cut people out calmly. And I've done it where I've managed teams. I've had teams of people, and I'm quite laid back as a leader, and people will sometimes interpret that wrong. They will then do something that goes against my rules, and I'll calmly just say to them face to face, "I'm sorry, but you knew the rules. You're done." And they'll kind of not believe me, and they'll be like, "Oh, come on, yeah, whatever." Genuinely, that's it. You knew the rules. I'm really sorry. I like you. It's a shame. but I have to keep those rules. And then when that person goes, everyone else will be, wow, no one is bigger than the rules. The rules are the rules. So I think having that, without being a dick about it, having those boundaries, having that honesty, kind of making people know where they stand, where they are, but also making sure that they have what they want in terms of if it's work, giving them the opportunity to work in a happy environment where they can earn the most amount possible. If you're in a team, it's about creating an environment where everyone wants to win. If you don't want to win and your team is there to have fun, then it is about making sure that everyone is on the same page. If you're there to have fun and one person comes in and then tries pushing everyone to win, you've got to cut that person out, because that's not the direction the team's going to. It's not just about winning, it's about everyone being on the same page and creating that environment and that culture where everyone can thrive and get out of it what the ethos of the team may be. I believe getting those people to, in a more serious environment, getting those people willing to die for you, willing to die for the cause, and I've seen, you see multiple films like it where they ask for a volunteer and everyone steps forward. It's creating that brotherhood, that band of brothers sort of thing, where everyone is willing to kind of die for each other, but that's because they know that everyone else would do that for them. They don't want to let anyone down, and they all want to kind of go through it all together. So creating that environment is tough. I'd love to interview multiple people from the military and see what they think creates that. My guess would be going through traumatic experiences together will give you a bond like no one else can get. I think if you're in a group, take some World War II vets who, and I only use them because the mortality rate was through the roof. I mean, the amount of people that died within your group, it might be more than 50%, and I think you surviving that gives you a bond with those people that you went through that with like nothing else, like more than family, more than anything. I think that spirit, I mean, it's kind of, to a lesser degree, sport. If you all go through something together, you all go through an experience together, I think that is what creates that bond. So going through tough times together, and coming through the other side, victorious or not, it's about that experience. I think putting people through those tough times is what galvanizes the unit. That's super important. So again, I'd love to interview multiple people from the military and get their opinion on that. I think having a culture where you can't really have ego of the individual, but you can have ego of the group. So I think the group saying we are better than every other group is a massive plus, but I think individuals saying that they are better than other individuals within the group is a major negative. I think they can say they're better than other individuals outside of the group, but I think you're then tempting fate when it comes to them then again comparing to each other. And of course they are being compared to each other all the time, and people are going to do that naturally, but I think getting them to be punished as a team, rewarded as a team, I think that will, being celebrated as a team as well. I've recently tried this. It's bad experimenting on my kids, but I've got a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, and sometimes she will do something that antagonizes him. He doesn't know how to control his emotions. He lashes out. He hits her. She gets upset. She says he hits her. Tell him off. So now, because, and it's not always that way, but because they're both to blame in so many ways, I always sit them both on the naughty step together. And I say to her, you can get off when you're both calm. So even though she might have just had a quick fight with him, they both sit down and then they have to, they're sat next to each other. That they, and they know they can both get off when they calm each other down. So they end up like this team of being there for each other very quickly. So again, I probably shouldn't experiment on them, but I want to create a culture of being there for each other and hope that lasts forever, rather than a competitive environment between siblings, because I think that will then stay with them for life, and I don't really want that. I want the family to be bigger than the individual, as a positive. I don't mean you've got to give up on your hopes and dreams for the family. I don't mean that. What I mean is the family is always there for you, and we celebrate together, and we go through bad times together. I want that to be the ethos. So yeah, I think creating that culture is massive within any group, and again, I'm trying to do that in my family. I think reading people's emotions and being emotionally intelligent, and I know it's starting to become a bit more fashionable and a bit more kind of noticed, but I think emotional intelligence is probably one of the most underrated things on the planet, and I think that it needs to be studied more. It needs to be. I genuinely believe it is. I'm not going to say more important than traditional IQ, but I think EQ generally will determine someone's success. I'd say it's probably a bigger indicator of someone having success in life, because you can have a high IQ in certain things but lack massively socially, and I think having the social skills is what gets you further in life, even if you might not be as intelligent, as in logically, academically intelligent. So I think emotional intelligence, being able to read people, being able to read situations, and kind of, as I said before, I know saying manipulating is a bad thing, but I think being able to get people on side, and as I kind of previously said, getting them buying into the dream and the goal, I think that is massive, and I want to really try and find some experts in emotional intelligence and see if there are different studies in how people can improve it, and if it's something that people are more born with, kind of like IQ, where you've got a lot of people are born with a glass, and everyone's glass is a different size, and yes, some people can fill theirs quicker, but everyone seems to have a maximum capacity, and I wonder if EQ is the same. So is your emotional intelligence something that you're born with? Is it something that you can develop? Is it something that maybe you're not born with it, and maybe it's through circumstance of life that you develop it more if you go through more, maybe as a child? I don't know. I'd love to find out, because I think it's a vital ingredient. I really, really do. Yeah, so I think making sure everyone within that team feels vitally important as well, from the bottom to the top. I think making sure everyone everyone knows how important they are. They have to. So, you know, if you work in a factory, making sure that the cleaner, know the cleaner's name, make the cleaner smile. I would say that's a huge thing. When I meet people, sometimes I make it my goal to make them smile. Some people are hard. Some people are just miserable. But when I meet people, I kind of give that challenge to myself. I'm going to make you smile. Before I leave, I'm just going to make you smile. I'll maybe make a joke, make a comment, whatever it may be. I want to make them smile. I want to know their name. I want to get to know them. And I feel that again is invaluable, because you make people who are usually ignored, you make them feel special regardless of what you are, who you are. People then will gravitate towards that and they'll smile back to you. And I think it gives you that presence, makes you more memorable. And I think for a leader, especially someone who shouldn't have time for these minions, giving the minions the time of day, I think creates that massive sense of family and a unity that no one is, or everyone is valuable. No one is kind of really above anyone else. Everyone has a part to play. I think that's vitally important. I'll tell you something that I used to really struggle with for a long time is, I've been told this before, not being people's mate, not being friends with your team members. I suppose you call them team members. What would you call them? Your team. I used to really struggle for a long time with becoming too, blurring the boundary of mate to not. I think if you're second in command, you can be everyone's mate. It's not a problem. When you're first, depending on how serious the thing is that you're in charge of, I think you can't be people's mate. You can have a laugh and a joke, but they need to know that you're not their friend. You show respect. You know, when there's a wedding, you send flowers. When there's a funeral, you send flowers. When someone has a baby, you send flowers. There's a lot of flowers, I know, but what I mean is you recognise important things to people, but you try not to go. I had a boss years ago who got invited to a Christmas do. And he was like, yeah, count me in, lads. And I thought, oh, man. And I thought, he's an idiot. So what I would have done if I was in his position and someone invited me, I probably, depended on the team, but in this particular environment, I would have gone. Because they were going to go for a meal, and then they were going to go out. No, I think they were going out for a meal. So probably what I would have done is said, look, I'll come for a quick bite to eat, but I can't stay long. So what I would have done is probably turned up, had food with everyone else, and then before or very soon after eating, I would have paid for everyone's meal and dipped. I would have just gone and just maybe given them an extra bit of money towards drinks, and that's it. So that they know I respect them. I don't think I'm above them, but at the same time, I'm not there to. I know they can't enjoy themselves when they're around me, because if I'm in charge, they're going to be not able to relax. So. And if they do relax, I don't want them to make mistakes if they're drinking. I don't want them to make a stupid mistake where I have no choice but to get rid of them, because it might have been a drunken mistake. So I don't want to put them in that position, but I also don't want them to think that I think I'm above them. So it's a sticky situation. It is tough, but yeah, personally, I do struggle with that one. I'm a lot better now. Business is business. Yeah, I'm a lot better now. I'm a lot better now. But I think that's one I really struggle with, is not being mates. I think it helps the busier you are, the older you are, the busier you are. You don't have time to be mates with all these people. You just, I don't have any friends anyway. I don't have time to have friends. So I can't really make that mistake. But I just think your language, the way you interact with people is very important. How people see you. Um, Again, I had a boss who he used to, in front of everyone, talk about going to different strip clubs, and I just thought, oh, no one's got any respect for you. You're an idiot. You need to be a bit calmer, a bit more cool, a bit more collected, a bit more composed. That's the word, composed. And he had none of it. He didn't have any composure. He was just a buffoon is the word. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people I really want to speak to. Like I said, about EQ, about military experience, and the bond that those groups form, and why they're so strong. Um, yeah, there's a lot of people I really want to talk to about that. So I think creating that culture, it's kind of basically what I was saying at the beginning, creating that culture, creating that unity, creating that group where everyone is on the same path. That's the most important thing, regardless of what the path is. I think if take the really bad example, but if you take the Nazi Party and everyone's kind of buying into the same idea and they all believe the same thing, they become a very, very dangerous, strong force, because they all believe the manifesto, if that makes sense. They're all on the same path. Now, I think, obviously, I can't even bother to go into the politics of it, because I don't know it enough, but what I mean is, some people, even if they've got evil intentions, if they're all on the same path, they can become very dangerous. But I think if you've got one person who's got a sort of dream, and then other people have got all their different intentions. One wants to do it for money, one wants to do it for freedom, one wants to do it to get the girl, whatever it may be. I think that's when it doesn't work. You all need to have the same desire. No, maybe it's not about that. What I mean is, you say it's to rob a bank. Say rob a bank. You all have to buy into. You are there to rob the bank. What someone might be there to because they want a thrill out of it. One of them might be there because they're bored. One of them might be there because they want to hurt someone. You're kind of not there for the same reason. You have to be there. Everyone on the same sheet. Everyone on it. Such a shit example, but you know what I'm trying to say. Everyone needs to be traveling in the same direction, and I think anyone that opposes that, anyone that brings that fucks with that culture, you just gotta strim them off. Prime example: Manchester United, when Sir Alex Ferguson was the best at this, the star of the team, the playboy, David Beckham. He's sells all the shirts, makes all the money, probably the best passer of the ball that has ever existed, still to this day. But when he starts messing with the culture of the team, gone. Just get rid of him. No one is indispensable. The team is bigger than any individual, and I think creating, like I said, that culture of boundaries and everyone knowing where they belong, it's invaluable. It's invaluable. So here's something crazy that I've only really learnt about recently. My whole life have been a pattern maker. Now, a lot of people would say to me about OCD and ADHD and all this sort of crap. I had OCD when I was a kid. But a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm really annoying and I pick fault in everything because I've got OCD." No, you're just annoying. Mine isn't. My version of OCD. I know probably everyone on the planet's got some form of OCD, so you're not special when you say it. But my version of OCD isn't about everything having to be like, you know, everything's got to be a certain angle, or everything's got to be this, or everything's got to be that. Mine has always been, as long as I can remember, mine has been about finding patterns. And what I mean is, when I was a kid, I used to count syllables and then do maths equations with syllables. So I'll give you an example, and it used to. I didn't really notice I did it till I got a bit older. But let's just think of an example. If I said and I want to know. I'd love to know if anyone else has this crazy thing. But I used to have this thing of where I would say I don't know. The dog ran up to the car. So I would go, the dog ran up to the car. Weirdly, all one syllable words. Strange. But 7. So then I would do that 7 times. So that would be for the. And then I would do, the dog ran up to the car. That's 2. That's for dog. The dog ran up to the car. That's 3. So that's for ran. The dog ran up to the car. That's for up. And then I would do that. And then I would start looking at how many letters. So the has 3. Dog has 3. Ran has 3. Up is 2. 2 is 2. The is 3. Car is 3. So out of the 7, you've got 5 3-letter words. And then you've got 2 2-letter words. So then I would try and get an average. I can't figure it out now off the top of my head, but I would then... I would start making equations as to that the pattern, and then I would come up with another pattern or another sentence, and then I would try and find where the common theme might be, if there is a certain number of letters per syllable rule of thumb, which there's not, because words are random. I mean, they're not random, but you know what I mean. There's so many different combinations. You're not going to be able to find a general... I mean, there might be. But anyway, so I would do that. And then I would do... I do this one in school all the time. I'd sit back and I'd look at the ceiling. And in my school, they had those ceiling grids. So I would count across. And then I would count across the other way. Like the other length of the room. And I would do that times that. Then I would do how many halves there were, or edges. Then I would get that number. Then I would find out. I would that room would be the number of how many ceiling tiles are in that room, and then I would do the same for the next room, and the next room, and the next room, and each room would have a certain number of how many ceiling tiles there are, and then I would look at the table plan, the shape of the room, and then see if there was a more efficient way to put those tables out by looking at the ceiling and counting the space and the area. And that is kind of a little bit bananas, I know, but that's 2 examples of what I used to do as a lunatic child. And that was my version of OCD, was to find patterns in things. Now here's what's crazy. I've been talking to someone about an expert. I've been talking to an academic expert about doing my PhD on leadership, and she said to me, well, there isn't really a definitive rule as to what a leader is. And I said, yet I'm going to figure it out. And she said, no, come on. And I said, genuinely, I'm going to figure it out. And I then started explaining to her what I do, how my brain works. And she said, oh, you're talking about system analysis. And I was like, am I? So I've looked it up. I've got a definition here. So system analysis, it says, system analysis is a review of a technological system like a software package for troubleshooting, development or improvement purposes. Through in-depth analysis, analysts can uncover errors in code, accessibility error. Oh, that one doesn't really explain it as well. Okay, so this one. System analysis is a process of collecting and interpreting facts, identifying the problems, and decomposition of a system into its components. Now, that is what I've done my whole life. I didn't know it was a thing. So I was like, whoa, okay. And then to blow my mind even more, I find out there's this thing called first principle thinking. So, I'll read this. First principle thinking is a way of thinking that breaks down a problem into its most basic elements and then builds up a solution from scratch. It involves questioning every assumption and separating facts from opinions. It helps individuals think creatively and reverse engineer complex problems. What do you know? It's almost the same thing. So, I can't believe that is what I've done my whole life with every single thing. So I always try to find the most efficient way to do anything you can think of. I'm always trying to find the most efficient way to, for example, cut a lawn. So if I'm cutting the grass, I want to find the most mathematically efficient way where I've got to do the least amount of steps. Or if I'm building something, I want to find the most economically efficient way by use of which timber I'm going to use and what I can cut to have the least amount of wastage as possible. I've done it my whole life, and I remember years ago I wanted to get really good at making omelettes. I love an omelette, so I remember I looked up 10 YouTube videos of some of the best chefs in the world making something as simple as an omelette, and I looked at what they all did, and then I took out everything else that was kind of irrelevant, and then what you do is you find the common denominators and you go, okay, I'm gonna put, you need eggs, they all seem to have butter as well, so it was things like that. I would be like, oh, okay, they all preheat the pan, okay, cool. So it was finding those things and then making that rule set. I've done it with jiu-jitsu. So Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I looked at things like the armbar. I looked at belly down armbar. I looked at an armbar from... So when you're on top and you're doing an armbar, you can have both legs over your opponent, so one over their head, one over their chest. You can have one leg bent and then underneath them, so up under the shin, underneath the armpit. You can do it so that there's so many different ways. And I looked at, what do they all have in common? What do they all have? And it was a case of finding what did I need and what I didn't need to care about. It's okay, it's cool if you have it, but what don't I need? And that is kind of what I want to do with leadership. So I'm trying to find, the problem is, so I'm looking at trying to find a supervisor for my PhD. I can't find anyone, and the reason is no one's fucking nuts enough, because if you look at all the leadership PhDs out there, most of them, they all seem to be on like business and managers, and they're all very corporate and also all very academic. So you kind of, the system is there, and all you've got to do is carry on with the system. The problem is, I think most research on leadership is bollocks. I really do. I think it's shit. I think a lot of the issues are too many people are looking at the wrong thing, and then they go down the wrong rabbit hole. Prime example would be if someone says all 10 of these great leaders were male. Well, yeah, but that's because women haven't had a chance yet. Oh, all 10 of these leaders were white. But that's because black people haven't had a chance yet. So you can't say on past performance when you've not got a fair representation. And if you said, right, well, we're going to chuck some women and black people in now, well, they haven't got any experience in that at the moment, and they probably won't have as much belief in themselves. And you've got, so it's not about colour, it's not about gender, it's not about, if you said like, oh, they're all organised, do you need to be organised to be a leader? Now, a lot of people would say, yes, you do. No, because if you've got a very good number two who's incredibly organised, you don't need to be organised as the number one. You don't. So that's something that people would say is important, but it doesn't need to be. Do you need to be assertive? No, because you might have, again, a number two that can be assertive for you. You might say, do you need to be decisive and good decision maker? Now, a lot of people would say yes, but here's the thing. If you've got a group of 12 people under you who are very, very intelligent, make very good decisions, but they all worship you for whatever reason, and they all listen to you, and they all would die for you, and they respect you, but you aren't very good at making decisions, you will trust them, and you tell them you trust them, and as long as they believe in you, they have no reason to want to get rid of you because they have bought into your thing. So is it charm? Do you need charm to be a good leader? What is it? This is what I'm trying to figure out. And I think what a lot of people have looked at so far is what's that study? I can't remember what it's called. Someone help. It's the one where the every plane that kept coming back. This is going to be wrong. I'm sure it's this. So all the planes, the bombers that kept coming back from France or Germany in World War II to the UK. What's it called? They were all survivor something. So basically they had loads of bullet holes in the bottom of the plane, and then they were like, right, this is where we need to put the metal plates because that's where the bullet holes were. But what they were doing was they didn't think that the ones that didn't make it back were the ones that got shot in the places that were vital. So instead of them putting the metal plates where they were needed, they put the metal plates where they saw all the bullet holes were. But obviously those planes made it back with the bullet holes there, so they didn't need the metal plates there. They needed them where none of the planes had bullet holes, because obviously if you get hit there, then the plane goes down. So it was, I'm sure it's called survivor bias. It's killing me. But I've always remembered that study because there's a lot of people that will look at something and go, oh, well, they've all got the same, so it must be this. And that's wrong. That's wrong a lot of the time if you're not open-minded enough to look past the immediate kind of the information that's just given to you freely. People kind of go, oh, well, that's the first thing that comes to me. Sometimes you've got to look past that. That is a skill that I have because I've done it my whole life, like I said. So this is I'm determined to use those skills to crack the code for leadership. I'm finding that looking at a lot of these PhD courses and sponsors, they're all very academic. And the problem I have is a lot of my theories will fuck off a lot of people, because I think that the other issue is with leadership. I can't remember if I said this before, but if you had a load of experts on childbirth and the emotional repercussions of childbirth, and they'd all been studying it for years, and then it turned out they were all men, what do they know about childbirth? They know the theory. They know the theory, but they don't know about childbirth. You could have a 16-year-old girl have a baby, and within 5 minutes, she knows more than all of those men who've been studying it for 30, 40, 50 years. She knows more than them in 5 minutes because she's been through it. So I think the problem is there's a lot of academics who love the theory, they study it, but they're not leaders. It's not the done thing to do, but I know I am a leader, not the done thing to say. And I know there's a lot of people who would say, oh, well, I'm a leader. That you're not. There's a lot of people that aren't. There are a hell of a lot of people that are, but there's a lot of people that think they are and they're not. I don't think being in a leadership position is what necessarily makes you, a lot of those people aren't leaders. They just happen to have been voted in, or they've got in, whatever it may be. And in my opinion, it sounds really cringe to say publicly, but fuck it, I'm going to say it. In my opinion, to be a leader, you've got to be very, very protective. You need to be protective of the team. You need to be protective of the individuals, as long as they don't fuck with the rest of the team, and of the direction, the direction everyone's travelling in. You need to protect that, and you need to protect the team. And as long as you protect those two things, and you look out for everyone that is trying to aid that, I believe that's the most important thing. Again, a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I also agree that, or believe that if you look at a lot of leaders, it's a personality thing that you can't teach. I think you can teach certain leadership traits, but I don't think you can teach someone to be a proper leader, a situational leader, someone who will step up when the pressure's on. And I believe that comes from going through various traumatic experiences that give you those instinctive personality traits that are things like standing up for weaker people and standing up to injustice. I was told years ago, so I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was younger, and I was told by a psychologist, some sort of mental health person, I don't know what it was, I can't remember. They said to me that it's very common for people who were abandoned and adopted, which is another thing I really want to ask some people about. I'd love to interview some different people about adoption and see the effect, especially for people who were adopted out of their own culture. I was adopted from Brazil into the UK and raised by two of the most kind-hearted people ever, but I don't think they knew what they were getting themselves into. They adopted another little Brazilian boy as well, who was 3 years younger than me, and it was like two beautiful Labradors adopting two feral wolf cubs. I don't think... I think it caused a lot of issues, and I think I used to get in a lot of trouble due to what she told me, this psychologist woman. It was to do with injustice. So it's all to do with, I used to hate bullies. I used to hate seeing other people getting picked on. I would have, if I had a load of the bigger, older kids shouting abuse at me, I didn't care. I couldn't care less. I had no self-worth. Nothing whatsoever. The second I see them say anything to anyone else, they're dead. All of them. I would have just picked up a weapon and gone at them. That's it. I hate bullies. I've hated it my whole life. I just have a thing about injustice, and it's ingrained into every fibre of my being, and it is to do with the injustice of being given away at birth. That's what she told me, and I've never been able to obviously shake that thought, and I'm sure that's what it is. But yeah, I want to look into that. Definitely look into that further and see if that is a thing, and see if that, for me, that's my thing. I've got a protective instinct. I like looking after people. I like getting the best out of people. I've got a massive, I suppose you call it, guilt complex of where I've been given this wounded will that will just keep going now, and I suppose you call it damaged soul. So it's kind of like you've been so damaged previously that the most shit now just bounces off, and I feel like I now owe it to the people that I feel protective of the people who haven't been through, who aren't damaged. I feel it's my, in a way, duty to protect them from becoming damaged. So it sounds stupid, I know, but I believe that is part of my reason for believing that, and obviously all my experience in work and sports teams and all these things, I believe I'm a good leader. I'd love to hear from other people whether they think I am, but I know I am. So I know that me studying leadership, I'll see it from a leadership point of view. From what I read, a lot of the studies I read, I see people who are academic theorists who can't lead and aren't leaders. And I think a lot of people have the concept of leaders wrong. Being a bossy person who manages a company, and I'm the CEO, doesn't make you a leader. I think being standing up for what is right in the face of all manner of fuckery, that is essentially what a leader is. And I'll tell you another person. What I would do to have a conversation with Jocko Willink. Some of the stuff I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. I have done. Brilliant man, and obviously he does a lot on leadership. So that's another person I'd love to have a conversation with one day, because I want to pick his brains, obviously from his experience, and he's got is it Echelon Front, I think it is, where he teaches businesses how to lead and leadership skills. I just want to ask him some questions on more so on situational. It's all good putting someone in a situation, a work situation where there's no life and death. The pressures aren't the same. I think if you threw them into a high risk situation, I think a lot of them would just fold. Perfect example. Band of Brothers. You know when I can't remember his name. Winters isn't allowed to go and join in with the fight, and then you've got there's a new bloke that comes in. I really need to look these names up. It's terrible. There's a new bloke that comes in and he takes the unit out to go and fight, and they're getting absolutely smashed because he's just a clown. He panics under pressure. He's hiding behind a hay bale and everything's going on and everyone's dying and he's telling everyone to do the wrong things. And then that Winters is watching his team just all dying, and He's desperate to get out there, and then they send some other dude, and it's my favourite part of Band of Brothers. He just comes running through the smoke, runs straight through all the bullets, goes straight over to the other side, gives them the information, comes back. There's just that, to me, was just the focus, just the knowing what you've got to do, getting on with it, getting it done. Yeah, that's one of my favourite parts. I love Band of Brothers, and the new one's coming out soon. What's it called? Something Wings or something. It's the new one. The Pacific was brilliant as well. I really want to watch this new one, which is, I think it's about bombers, a lot of the bombers. But yeah, Band of Brothers, brilliant for that. There's a lot of leadership stuff in that. I need to rewatch it. What a series! One of the best series ever. And I know it's slightly off topic, but I read an article on True Detective the other day, and I think they're bringing out a 4th series of that. That first series, oh my word, one of the best series ever. Dark, but yeah. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I wanted to just talk about my conceptualizing systems analysis way of thinking, and first principle thinking is what the phrase I heard recently, and how I want to put that into leadership. And I just need to interview people. I need to pick their brains. I need to get information. I need to get it all written down. I need to find someone mental enough who's happy to do the philosophy, the philosophical study, analysis, whatever the fuck you want to call it, on leadership. Pick it apart, pull it apart. Yeah, I really want to just rip it to shreds and find those basic ingredients, and can you teach them, and are there ways of identifying children, if you can't teach it to adults, and if it is something that does come from a deep childhood place, is it something that you can teach children at a young age? Kind of like anything, the best world boxers generally start at as a young age. So I wonder if it's something that you need to teach people to be leaders, or maybe they need to go through traumatic experiences and make it out the other end, or I don't know. I really want to find out how you make them, how you make leaders. How is it compassion? Is it protective instinct? Is it man management? Is it culture creation? I know there's all these important things, but I wanna rip it apart. Let's take it apart piece by piece by piece. I really want to this sounds kind of crazy, but I want to do this PhD with as many people as possible. Yes, I'm going to be doing it, and I've got to do all the work myself, but I really would love to do the whole journey with just bouncing ideas off of people. I want to pick it apart. I want to get the answers, and I want to get rid of this bullshit that everyone keeps saying, that you've got to be white, you've got to be male, you've got to be 6 foot plus, you've got to be whatever it is. You've got to have been to Oxford or Cambridge if you're from, or an Ivy League if you're American, whatever it may be. I just want to get rid of that bullshit, and I want to find out what really would make, who would make the best leaders. How do you create someone who's selfless? So yeah, I'd love to go on that journey with as many people as possible. So yeah, I'm hoping to, like I said, start interviewing soon. I'm just gonna keep word fucking you with just rambling bullshit till I start getting some interviews set up, and then I'm just gonna hopefully find, like I said, someone mental enough to put up with my just nonsense, basically. I need to find someone who's going to buy into pissing off a lot of academics, because I like I said, there's a lot out there that I think is wrong, and just because 10 people say one thing doesn't make it right. Very egotistical of me to say, arrogant of me to say, they're all wrong, I'm right, they're experts, I'm not yet. I'm not saying I'm right, I just think they're wrong, and I want to know what is right. So that's what this is about. Anyway, I've rambled on for fucking ages. I need to go to bed. I'm tired. So, cool. I will come back with some more soon. I've got plenty I need to talk about. I've got, let's have a look. I've got probably about 50 different subheadings of things I want to go through, things I want to talk about, and probably about a list of 30 people that I really want to interview. Funnily enough, one of them is Winston Churchill, but I think I'm going to find it hard to interview him, so instead, really, I need to find someone like a biographer or something. But yeah, cool. Thanks for listening if you have. If you haven't, that's cool. I'm happy to ramble on my own for an hour, so stay cool. Hit me up with some questions if you got any. Talk. I want to talk. Let's figure this shit out together. Cool. See you again soon.